Stand up.
Hi there. Welcome to today's episode of Stand Up. This is my daily podcast I've been doing since 2020, and 12 years before that, I did it on Sirius XM live radio every day. So just a quick shout out to everybody who's been along with me for the ride. I'm so grateful, and every morning as I start to do this, when I get up, I think about it, I write about it, and I'm just super grateful for your support. Wanted to say that at the opening here. We've created a really amazing community of people around the show. I'm really excited to have one of those very smart people joining me as my guest today. It's Dr. Wil Jeudy of Secular Houston and Secular Texas. We had a great conversation, and I always love talking to and connecting with Wil. And if you want to jump to the interview, it begins at about 31 minutes. But first, I have your headlines and clips. I'm doing all of this on camera so you can see me, read some of the stories I've mentioned, and play and watch the clips along with me. I did this for the first time yesterday, so I'm just kind of trying to get it down. And so be patient with me each day. Hopefully make it a little bit better. Might be hiring somebody to help me, at least short term. So this week is an experiment, and I'm learning more every day. So thanks a lot for your support. Please go subscribe to YouTube at Stand Up with Pete or Substack at Stand Up with Pete and get a paid subscription there if you want, or you can always just subscribe at patreon.com/Pete Dominick, or you can Venmo me if you want. There's a link to my Venmo at the end of every day's show notes. All right, let's get started with those headlines, shall we? Time for the shit show.
It's Pete's headlines and clip show. Get in on.
All right, let's start with this news coming out of Detroit and Canada. I'll read it from the Associated Press that writes, a major new bridge linking Canada and the U.S. at Detroit opened Monday to trucks, cars, and other vehicles. The climax of a years-long project that lately had been bruised a bit by international politics because our president's a complete and total prick. Descendants of Gordie Howe, the hockey legend whose name is on the bridge, were among the first to cross over the Detroit River, which separates the Motor City from Windsor, Ontario, where when you were younger, you'd go to buy your alcohol. If you lived in Detroit, you'd go across another bridge. I think they replaced, because you could buy alcohol at 18 there. That's what Windsor is known to Detroit American teenagers. At least I think Gretchen Whitmer drove across it in her Ford Mustang convertible as well, but that's a pretty big deal if you're in either Michigan or in Canada there, that new bridge connecting the two nations. And it's been under a lot of stress. So glad it's finally opened. Let's see. TheHill.com is reporting that yet another member of Congress is under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. His name is Lance Gooden. He's a Republican. He's from Texas. And he's now subject to a probe by the House Committee on Ethics after it received a referral from the Office of Congressional Conduct on June 10th. We don't know what the allegations against Gooden are. He's 43 years old. He's seventh member of Congress to be investigated by the committee this year alone. He was elected to Texas's 5th district, which makes up Dallas, Henderson, Kaufman, Van Zandt. It doesn't matter. But in 2018, before that, he served 3 terms in the Texas House of Representatives. And other current and former lawmakers probed by the House Ethics Committee recently include Chuck Edwards, Republican, North Carolina; Eric Swalwell, of course, Democrat of California. He's gone. Sheila Cherflos McCormick, Democrat of Florida; Tony Gonzalez, Republican of Texas. Is he gone yet? Corey Mills finally being investigated. Nancy Mace as well. The committee is going to announce its findings in the Gooden probe on or before November 9th. So that is another story to watch coming out of the House. CBS, many other outlets are reporting that Senator Mitch McConnell, the former Republican Senate leader from Kentucky, has been hospitalized for 6 weeks. Nobody's seen him except these weird pictures that nobody really believes. Apparently, there's a statement from Mitch McConnell on Monday. So I guess he's awake and writing statements that he's not going to be returning to the Senate this week as lawmakers work toward their August recess. Did anybody think he was? Did he say that he was coming back? Was there any speculation that he was returning, rising from the dead? In a statement from his office, Mitch McConnell, who's 84, also said he'd not be at Saturday's Fancy Farm. This is an annual state political picnic that he's attended for more than 4 decades, and that it's a must for politicians in Kentucky. The statement from his office also included a photo of him and his wife smiling, seated in a chair propped up by a pillow. And also they included a video of him jumping on a trampoline holding today's paper. So I can't imagine why we wouldn't buy and believe all of that. Some of it I made up. You can decide which part. Let's head over to Politico, where they say that the Department of Justice is dropping a major case against California labor leader. We told you they would. The arrest of SEIU leader David Huerta sparked outrage around the administration's immigration agenda. And, well, guess what? The DOJ moved to drop its final charge against Huerta, who protested immigration enforcement. The latest in the setback against the Trump regime's efforts to punish people who resist deportation's agenda. And I love this. Now, here's a weird story. This is coming from the New York Times. I've got it. The headline is Brazil blocks visit by U.S. delegation seeking to question election system. What? The Brazilian government has blocked a U.S. delegation from traveling to the country next week, concerned that the visitors would seek to cast unfounded doubts on the safety of the nation's electoral systems ahead of the presidential contest this year, according to U.S. and Brazilian officials. So the Brazilians didn't want the U.S. to come and sow seeds of doubt about their election system. The decision to bar the U.S. delegation is the latest escalation between the two nations after several weeks of heightened tensions following new tariffs and ideological clashes on issues like organized crime. It also fuels concerns among many Brazilians over possibly more meddling by our commander-in-chief in their internal affairs, this time aiming for a voting system that global observers widely regard as secure. So it's hard to believe, but yes, he's actually meddling in other countries' elections, of course, on behalf of his friend, another piece of shit, Jair Bolsonaro. Wildfires in Spain and France continue to rage. People are evacuating in hundreds of thousands, sleeping in their cars, fire moving closer to the city of Bordeaux. Terrible what's happening there, obviously. And here in the Northeast, there's supposed to be some terrible torrential storms over the next couple of days, more rain than you get in like 4 weeks. Is horrible tornadoes or a storm that went through Wisconsin and destroyed a whole neighborhood, it looks like. I usually don't mention too much about weather, but as it relates to climate in this case and the wildfires, for sure, in these floods, it's inevitable and obvious what is causing it. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani held a much anticipated press conference announcing the government or city-run grocery stores. He said the 5 planned city-run grocery stores would offer a 30% discount on a core basket of healthy groceries. I'll bring you some clips from that press conference coming up. He was also asked about whether or not he would heed the call to not show up at the 9/11 commemoration, where some 9/11 victims' families have said they don't want him there, which is fucking absurd. And I think he's going to be there. Also wanted to mention that 3 people were killed at a food festival last night in Seattle. Investigators believe that 2 people were shooting at each other. A 15-year-old was arrested, but those families are traumatized and horrified forever because just anybody can get a gun and shoot at each other. As to anybody, anywhere, at any time. And that's what we live with here in America. And the DNC is apparently shit the bed and doesn't have any money and is being poorly run. Have you heard about this? I'll talk about it with people in the days coming up. Those are the headlines that I've gathered for you today. Now it's time to get to the clip show. Some of my favorite clips that I found from the past day or so. Starting with a very smart woman. It's Amanda Lipman, who runs a great organization, Run for Something. Here she is explaining the total mess that apparently Ken Martin and leadership of the DNC have gotten that organization into.
Over the weekend, there were a series of stories about the mess that the DNC is in after the failed leadership of Ken Martin. They're in debt. They put their building up for collateral. He's having people sign NDAs at normal fundraising meetings. He threw a phone at an aide because he was frustrated. All kinds of shit. Now, I want to be super clear. I've been saying since like May, Ken Martin's not up to the task. But the most important thing to keep in mind about the DNC right now is the thing that they do that matters is not actually affecting the elections in 2026. It is preparing to run the presidential primary process in 2027 and 2028, and then to provide the backbone of the nominee's campaign after the general. Because the nominee is not going to have the time to build up everything they need ahead of that general election. They're going to jump in and take over the DNC. Do you think that the DNC as it currently exists is well situated to have the resources and, more importantly, the trust to do that well? I don't think so. Now, the only people who can decide to change leadership is either Ken Martin himself stepping down, which I don't know what he's going to do, or DNC members. I hope that DNC members can see the light here. I also hope that Ken Martin can see the light here, but there's no proof of that. I hope that they can understand that this does not serve our party as we prepare to win, not just now, but 2 years down the road. That the most important thing we can do is make sure that people trust the DNC to be a good actor and that it has the resources it needs to prepare for a presidential in 2028. Neither of those things are happening. And just as an aside, if a woman DNC chair had been accused of being too emotional or abusive to employees in any way, it would have ended her career. See the Amy Klobuchar presidential campaign. Just saying.
Love that from Amanda Lippman. Great commentary there. The DNC is in real disarray. Can they recover by 2028? How did they get there? And will Ken Martin resign? Those are the most important questions Amanda Lippman asking. And I got to try to get her on. She's really smart. I love talking to her. I reached out to her not too long ago, and I will try again. All right, moving on. Let's head over to Mayor Mamdani, who yesterday announced the city-run grocery stores. How are they going to fare? I'm really interested to see how this goes.
Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line.
Well, who's not going to shop at those grocery stores? I think everybody's going to shop at those grocery stores, right? The issue is going to be the lines because everything's going to be cheaper. We'll see how socialism works in New York City, much less for the rest of the country. All right, let's stay with that press conference where he was asked about those 9/11 victims' families' concerns about him being there.
A number of people who are survivors of 9/11 are calling on you not to go to 9/11 memorial services. I wonder how you feel about the fact that they're trying to keep you away.
I will proudly honor the families, the survivors, the first responders forever impacted by that horrific terror attack by standing alongside them at this year's 9/11 commemoration, reaffirming that we will never forget the solemn day felt by all of us who call this city home and frankly by all of us who call this country home.
So I guess he's going. Is that the deal? I think he's going. All right, moving on. Next, I want to share this with you. I thought this was an interesting conversation between two pretty smart, influential black men. Ested Herndon, who is a real smart political reporter over at Vox, was interviewing one of the most powerful kingmakers in the Democratic Party, James Clyburn of South Carolina. They got into what I think is fair to say a bit of a disagreement. Let's take a listen.
Like political lessons. Like, was there any political lesson you think there is to take from an administration whose central goal was to stop Donald Trump's return? And here we are.
And he stopped it.
I mean, you stopped it and enabled, I think some would argue.
Well, when the white vote turned out 71% 2 years ago, and the black vote turned out 59%, you tell me whose fault that is.
I guess
only 59% of African Americans went to the polls 2 years ago.
It's tough for me personally to blame black voters for the last election more than it is to blame President Joe Biden.
That's the fact. It wasn't Joe Biden on the ticket. It was Kamala Harris on the ticket.
For 107 days after he decided
Kamala Harris on the ticket.
I guess I just wanted to see if there was a clear political lesson you took from that moment and whether you think something applies in this kind of larger democratic rethink after. But I hear you. You're saying that you think it was a media problem. It was a branding problem. It was a candidate problem.
I didn't say that. The media had nothing to do with that 59%. If that 59% had been 69%, she would have won.
I guess. So is the argument that black people let Kamala Harris down?
Oh, in many instances, absolutely. If you don't show up to vote, what are you doing?
Is there no valid reason why black voters could not have felt heard by the last Democratic election? Is there no valid reason that they would have?
There might be. I'd like to know what it is.
Wow. I'm just going to leave that right there for you and move on to Mark Elias, who is always great. Democracy Docket. He was on MS Now, and I thought this was important.
I think that dinner should have been canceled years ago. I mean, like, people are watching this video and acting like somehow this is new. I mean, Donald Trump has been a misogynist towards female reporters for years. He has attacked Caitlin Collins for years. He has been lying about elections for years. What we saw him do on Friday night was nothing unexpected. It's more of the same. And to me, you know, my question to the journalist in the room is, why were you there? I mean, why did you show up to a dinner that honors the president of the United States, this president of the United States? You know, and when he started saying these things, why didn't you boo? Why didn't you walk out? Why did you sit there and politely applaud or giggle or laugh or make small talk with Stephen Miller or just eat? I mean, go eat someplace else. You know, the institutional corporate media wonders why it is that it keeps losing, you know, the trust of the American public. It's dinners like that is why you lose the trust of the American public, because Donald Trump is putting on a hat saying he's running in 2028, and you're sitting there eating a dinner.
Mark Elias, there he goes, not pulling any punches. And by the way, Caitlin Collins was on The Daily Show last night with Jon Stewart, and I want to share that with you.
Let me ask you a question.
Go on.
How was your weekend? What'd you do? Anything fun?
It was good. It was quiet.
What's quiet?
No, it wasn't.
That was Friday night?
Yeah.
There are times when I watch him and I think to myself, this can't be real. Like, this can't be America. America, you've heard of us. We're great.
Been here.
You've been here for
34 years.
Yes. We're number one. We're the best. That guy runs us? What? In the room that night, did it feel surreal? Was he bombing as hard as it appeared on the TV?
You know, I've covered Trump for 10 years. Yes. And so I've listened to pretty much all of his speeches for 10 years with very little exception. And so I actually think it's helpful for other people to be able to listen to them in their entirety, which people really don't that much these days. In the room, I think I was not surprised when he insulted me. That happens pretty regularly inside the Oval Office. Yes. This is just a bigger venue where it was happening. Mm-hmm. What was most surprising to me was the room was filled with a lot of his staffers, his cabinet, his allies, Republicans in Congress. It was so quiet in the room during the president's remarks.
Because of how much they respect him.
Who's to say?
Hard to tell, really. In your mind, first of all, what do you think is going on with his relationship to you? I have to give you a great amount of credit. You are unflappable in those. You ask very straightforward questions. I've written some stuff down about, like, you've asked it about, you pardoned the founder of Binance, all these different things. You're asking about that. A very straightforward question about why he pardoned this gentleman who now has an involvement in his family's crypto business or had helped promote it. His answer to you on that was, you said to him, this guy admitted to his crimes. Trump said to you, you don't know much about crypto. You know nothing about nothing. You're fake news.
But he didn't answer the question.
No.
And then he said he didn't really know who the person was.
Right. Why? You are very straightforward with him. You don't play coy. You don't frame it in gotcha ways. And you're a terrible person. You're a stupid person. You don't smile. When that's done, is there an office of, like, smoothing things out that comes to your office and says, like in a bar when your friend gets in a fight, like, hey man, he's drunk, like, I'm so sorry. Like, what do they do? Are they embarrassed?
You know, but that's why I ask the questions the way I do, is because I want anyone to be able to listen to what I'm asking, whether that's at a briefing or during a moment with the president, and think, you know, I want to know the answer to that too, or that is a good question. I don't want it to only serve one audience or one political leaning. I want anyone, you know, from my family in Alabama to people in the White House, to people in Washington, to be able to hear that answer or hear that question and think, what is the answer to that? And so
the answer is very clearly, you should smile more. It's the answer to all the questions. I want to have you. It's stunning to me. We were watching when he was doing that. You were sitting next to Wolf Blitzer.
Yes.
Wolf Blitzer is a 78-year-old man. Not a lot of density in those bones. I know what I'm talking about. I'm in the same position. He looked like he wanted to go up there and shake him. He was so angry on your behalf. But you don't get angry. How do you maintain that level of detach?
Well, first off, can I say about Wolf?
Yeah.
Wolf actually picked me up for the dinner that night, and we rode together to go to the dinner. He was presenting the awards that night after he was supposed to do them back in April.
He still has his license?
Wolf is an excellent driver. But we went to the dinner together, and Wolf and I are really good friends. He was one of the first people that I met when I started at CNN.
Right.
And he's called me every day since Friday. And he's just a dear friend. But actually, one of the best parts of the dinner was Wolf reading the descriptions of the awards
in front of him,
and why the reporters got them. You know, my colleagues who also did esteemed reporting, great reporting, and deserved those awards. And so I loved hearing Wolf read the descriptions of what they were and why people got them. In terms of my reaction, I've always felt this. Mm-hmm. Regardless of who's the president, whether it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, those are the two I've covered. It's really not about me. And I don't want it to be about my reaction. And so I think if you let it become about that, then it becomes a back and forth between the two of us. And instead, I think it's more effective to remind people in those moments when he is insulting me or when he is criticizing me, about the question I asked or the reporting that I did that he was so angry about in this moment, and the fact that I got an award for it really bothered him clearly. And so I just think in those moments, it's important to put the reminder back on the work, on the question, and on the non-answers that we get.
Yeah, she's really good. She's smart, not just a pretty face, which is what I thought when she first started, but she's really very good at her job. That's not an easy job, the broadcast, television, and always being out there like that. But she does handle it well, and I thought that was a really good interview by John. Well done, Jon Stewart. Now I want to move on to James McGovern, who is on Democracy Now! See, I gave you a real sampling of a wide variety of different clips from different shows. Democracy Now!, of course, one of the best of all time. Here is one of my favorite congressmen of all time, James McGovern of Massachusetts, second, talking about American policy towards Cuba.
I feel like the ghost of Joe McCarthy is appearing in Washington, D.C. right now. I mean, what this administration is doing by targeting its critics and members of the free press is what you would see in an authoritarian country. I mean, it is a drift toward fascism, if you will. And quite frankly, our policy toward Cuba is a disaster. It's an embarrassment. We should lift the embargo. We should have normal relations with the Cuban people. We should let the Cuban people decide their future. It shouldn't be decided by Marco Rubio or people in Washington. And right now, our intensified sanctions and embargo is resulting in starvation on the Cuban island, people not being able to get health care, people without electricity. I mean, it is a human rights crime, and it needs to stop. So I reject what the administration is doing, and I think our policy toward Cuba is a disaster.
Well done, McGovern. Not a lot of people covering Cuba, but they are beating the odds down there. Really terrible but interesting stories unfolding on the island country. And now let's go to reporter Aaron Parnas, who is in D.C. with a unique story, which I love.
A massive roast of White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller has begun across Washington, D.C. Signs like these are popping up across the city. Roast this ugly F. Best joke wins $500. And then you have jokes on the right. Remember when your husband painted his head to go on TV responding to Katie Miller? And then on the left, you can read that joke yourself right there. These jokes are popping up across DC, and the website, apparently, best joke wins $500. I had no idea this was happening. I was literally on a walk, and I've seen many of these posters now popping up in DC. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, obviously, is public enemy number one for a lot of people. He's the one behind much of the Trump administration's mass deportation efforts. There was talk about suspending writ of habeas corpus. I mean, anything, all of the really, really bad policies that are coming out of the Trump administration that people don't like, Stephen Miller is usually the one behind it. So you can now roast Stephen Miller. Follow along for all the news you need to know about.
All right, Aaron Parnas. All the guy does is plug himself. For God's sake, he's a monster. There you go. I thought that was pretty funny. I hadn't seen that anywhere else, though. So there you go. I guess you have to be in D.C. All right, up next, Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, Sunday, joined an Indian student protest in London to show solidarity with the, quote, cockroach movement. Have you heard about this? I hadn't. What began as an online joke has evolved into one of the most significant protest movements in India, being led by young people hoping to change the established political structure and the damage they believe the government has caused. Here's a bit of that.
Thank you all for being here. I'm so proud to see so many people show up. And we are showing that all over the world, we are standing in solidarity with the Indian youth. The Indian student protests are making us all proud, and they give us hope. They show what we can accomplish when people come together and resist. They show the true meaning of people power. The Indian students' struggle for justice and the broader struggle for democracy and liberation is also our struggle. So we all have to come together now and rise up in solidarity with India. I'm proud to stand alongside you. Power to the people. Thank you.
There you go. Greta Thunberg in India, or in London, in solidarity with the Indian people. And now I want to share a little Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's talking about the scientific vacuum that has descended upon the U.S. and what it means.
There's an intellectual vacuum, scientific vacuum that is descending upon the United States. And that has consequences. I'm not here to tell people who to vote for or what to vote for or who your candidate is. Has nothing to do with this. It has to do with an if-then statement. If you're okay with the United States losing its scientific leadership, especially in the physical sciences, if you're okay with that, you will get the country you voted for. And that country is one where we will no longer innovate because our greatest innovations are based on the frontier science that's way beneath them, hidden from the daily news reports, hidden from what you see and hear about as you surf the internet. That goes away. We lose the foundation of our innovations, and the United States fades on the world stage. And they will do things that will impress us, just as we did things my entire life growing up that impressed the world. We went to the moon. Nobody else was close to going to the moon. As a scientist, it kind of doesn't matter who's making the advances because the fields of science move forward. But as an American, I like baseball, I eat hot dogs, and I eat apple pie. Yeah, I'm American. It kind of hurts to watch this hard-earned leadership evaporate. We will be less secure, less healthy, and less wealthy because some community of people who influence what this country is do not see the value of science deep below all of that.
Good stuff from Neil deGrasse Tyson. As always, love the guy. And that is so important. Speaking of science, I wanted to bring on my friend Michael Mann because he's on TV whenever there's awful climate stories, and what's unfolding right now in Europe is one of them. So here he is talking to Jake Tapper. I should probably reach out to him myself, right?
Professor Mann, Spain's prime minister says that these wildfires are not a succession of isolated events, but, quote, the most painful expression of the climate emergency. To what extent is the climate crisis fueling Europe's wildfire crisis right now?
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Jake. Although, unfortunately, it's usually bad news when you and I are speaking, and that's the case here. And he's exactly right. I mean, we would not be seeing the sorts of wildfires as extended as they are, as pervasive as they are, as hot burning as they burn now, as damaging and deadly as they are, if it were not for the fact that we are warming the planet with carbon pollution, burning fossil fuels, and creating the conditions, creating this fire weather, the sorts of weather that gives rise to these unprecedented wildfires. Hot, dry, you mix those two things together, that's the fuel for these massive wildfires.
Explain.
There you go. There you go. Just a little bit of the science that we all need to know and learn. And finally, something nice. I love John Cena. Everybody loves John Cena, right? The wrestler and actor. I think this is thoughtful, and I wanted to share with some good stuff, which I like to do.
I didn't do that. I was a little spark that gave them the chance to have a loving connection. When I go to those conventions, I am there to meet everyone, and they have taken their time and resources to do the same. So when they say your work affected my life, what I enjoy about those connections is they'll give me the story. I used to watch wrestling with my dad, and I lost him recently, but I just want to tell you that had an awesome effect on our relationship. I didn't do that. I was a little spark that gave them the chance to have a loving connection. I thank them for the story. I give my condolences for their loss. But man, I also thank them for being vulnerable. And we can do all that in a span of a minute or a minute and a half. All you got to do is just take it one at a time, and never short somebody who's trying to be vulnerable with you.
Yeah. Never short somebody who's trying to be vulnerable with you. Connecting with your fans. I like that from John Cena. Okay. Well, there you go. How about it? That's all I got for you on the clip show, and hopefully you liked it. You can send me your clip ideas, your headline ideas, standupwithpete@gmail.com. And now it's time to get to today's guest. He is a not such a long time listener. He actually started listening just a couple of years ago when I launched the podcast, and he's a real smart guy that I've gotten to know very well. He's a board-certified family medicine doctor. He practiced urgent care full-time in the Houston, Texas area. He's got 2 grown daughters. He is also a political organizer and a secular humanist. He's gone from faith to humanism, and he works with Texas Atheists, secular Houston, I should say, in the show notes of the organizations that Wil works with and supports, and candidates as well. Look in the show notes. Let's do it right now. Go give Wil a follow. Support him on Instagram at Wil_J3 and everything else. Let's do it right now with Dr. Wil Jeudy. Sir, welcome back to the show as my guest. Thank you very much for all of your support and for listening, and I always love talking to you. So thanks for doing this with me today.
Thanks, man. I love what you do.
You and I met through the show, but we've become, I'd say, friends and lovers, but people don't know about that. But more importantly, you found, we became friends through the show, but you become like a guest on the show. And this is not the only podcast, certainly, that you've been on. You're a very outspoken guy. You get out there and do the work. Talk to us a little bit, in case people don't know, about the work that you're doing on the separation of church and state there in Texas.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm kind of a behind the scenes kind of cat, doing what I do behind the scenes. And I kind of realized it should be more out there, just kind of letting people know what we're doing. Not so much that I like the spotlight, which I don't, but kind of let people know that they can do it themselves to inspire people. But yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time with separation of church and state issues, both in the political realm and in the community realm here in Houston. For instance, yesterday I gave a talk about Christian nationalism at a UU church in Galveston, Texas, about a little over an hour away. And this talk is me and an atheist and a Christian, and she's a lawyer, I'm a doctor, so it's a pretty dynamite combination. So we give these talks once in a while. We're gonna do a Curiosity Brews event. I think they have those nationally, but then in Houston they do these once in a while. So it's kind of a hip thing. We do it at a bar, but it's like a TED Talk. So yeah, spreading the word, letting people know what the separation of church is, separation of church and state is, letting people know what Christian nationalism is, what it is, why it's so bad, and what you can do about it.
How do you see your work affecting people when you go into their communities, into their churches or other venues? I mean, I always feel like you moderate or participate in a pretty open-minded conversation, but I don't know, maybe people get pretty glazed and pissed and mad, but I feel like you're probably opening a lot of minds and hearts just because of your style and obviously the subject matter. But how does it go down there for you?
It always goes well, and whether it's in churches or non-belief spaces. I think people know kind of what Christian nationalism is, but we go in there and our message is, it's insidious. It's by design. It's supposed to be meant to be insidious and in the background, but it's bad because of this. And we go out of our way to let people know that this is not attacking Christianity. Christian nationalism is not Christianity, and this is why. And that's why I have Amy as a Christian explaining that part.
Yeah, that's really important to have the credibility of people who practice Christianity. Yeah, I feel like there's some of those authors and experts who are most respected are like that, like a Kristen Dumez, and there's several other people like that as well. But how do you talk to people about it? What is your kind of canned commentary, if you can't give us a little bit about when people don't know what Christian nationalism is? It doesn't sound that bad if you don't know a lot about politics, if you don't know what nationalism is. But I feel like the easiest way to explain it is to be like, there's certain people who want religion to dominate our government, our laws, and specifically their interpretation of their religion, which is something that is very strict and fundamentalist, and one might argue oppressive, but I'm already taking too many words to get to it. How do you tell people what Christian nationalism is without turning them off?
You have to separate it from Christianity first and foremost, and that's really the hardest thing to do. I'm an atheist. I'm state director for the American Atheists, so I approached it very gingerly. I can't do this with everyone, especially Christians. So that's why I have Amy to help me as a partner in giving these talks. But yeah, first of all, you have to separate it from Christianity, reduce the temperature of this conversation that's about to happen, and then some steps in between. But the end result should be that this person should realize that Christian nationalism is 180 degrees from the red letters of the New Testament, from what Jesus preached and believed. And yeah, I was a believer for many, many years. I know a lot more about the Bible than a lot of Christians. So I do a lot of atheists, actually. But so I get it. I get the repulsion. I get when they meet me, the recoil. Oh, you're an atheist. They recoil. I used to be like that. So I get it. I get it.
How did you shed what you learned growing up, your religious views? I don't know if we talk about that.
Yeah, I just slowly flittered away. There was no trauma. There was no sudden break. I left my daily indoctrination in a private school down in South Texas, went to a regular high school, college, medical school, met different people, learned about science, and I just slowly flittered away and just made less and less sense. And I just kind of stumbled into a secular group here in Houston in 2016. I wasn't looking for it, but I did. And then I was just rapidly was comfortable calling myself an atheist from there.
I don't know if I told you, but for me, it was growing up Catholic, going to Catholic school. My parents weren't, my dad was Catholic. My mom was clearly anti-religious, but he wasn't talking about it at all. He wasn't forced on us, but we did go to like religious instruction once a week or something. But I started to, maybe I was 13, 14. I was questioning a lot, but I still was fairly, indoctrinated and committed to it and going and believing to some extent. But for me, it was almost one moment that just everything changed, and it was listening to my first George Carlin album. And I know there's a lot of people like that used to host a show on the Comedy Channel and Sirius XM, and so many other people that grew up like me said, yeah, that George Carlin album changed my views. It gave me permission. It was an adult saying things in a clever and funny way. Do you hear that a lot? That it's either, in this case, a comedy special or any other thing? Because the reverse is often the case when people become born again. But a lot of times people do have this kind of inflection point where like, oh my God, I can't believe I believe this or that.
It happens a bunch, especially if we grew up in the 80s or in that time era. It was taboo. And as it is now, religion, generally Christianity specifically, is kind of held in really high esteem, always has been in this country. So to buck it, to drop it and go past it, it's taboo. It's hard to do. There's a lot of societal pressures, family pressures. So yeah, I love that you got that permission. I'm kind of jealous of people like you because it took me a while. I kind of questioned as a kid, how can someone live in the belly of a whale for 3 days? And I just thought, okay, God made it happen, magic. That's it. That's all I needed, and swallowed hard and moved forward.
What about raising your daughters who are now, what, 27, 24? Is that right?
That's right.
Did you raise them with religious views or anything? I mean, how did you handle that? And what do you say to other parents? Because I always find it, no offense, but if you don't believe, but you're teaching your kids because you want them to, quote, have something or not be afraid of death, I'm going to go ahead and say you're not doing parenting right. Like, if you teach your kids something that you don't believe yourself outside of Santa, then I just don't love that. I don't love that. How do you view that category of parents who just, I want them to have something? Because there's a lot of other things you could teach them or give them that I would argue would be even better than this nonsense that you, by the way, don't buy yourself. What do you think?
That's a hard one. There's so many layers of things to that argument.
You're so thoughtful. I'm so much more judgmental to you. I'm
Yeah.
joking, but I'm also serious. Like, it's good to have your more thoughtful point of view on it. So go ahead.
Yeah, the way I see it is that nature always follows the path of least resistance, and we're part of nature. It's the same with human nature. So in this country, it's just easier to go along with the river of Christianity and the community that comes with it. To go against it, that's going swimming upstream. And when you're raising kids, you're usually younger. You're working hard at a job. You're trying to figure your life out yourself, and you just don't have that extra energy a lot of time to swim upstream. So you end up just falling into the path of least resistance, especially when the kids are at such a young, impressionable age. So I personally didn't make it a big issue. I was kind of floating away at that time. So I was still trying to figure things out for myself. But by example, they saw me. They knew I'm an empathetic, good person. They knew I wasn't going to church. So I think I set the foundation for conversations to happen in the future.
You make a good point about community. I always say that that's the best thing about religion. And if you don't have it, you want it. Human beings want and thirst for community. And church brings that, or any house of worship brings that, delivers it. And it's more than just having people that you can meet and socialize with. It's having someone that can show up for you when your kids are sick, when you're sick, that you can show up for and draw purpose from. And without being part of that church community, you could be excluded. And whether or not people are looking down on you or judging you, you're still out there maybe alone and you don't have that community. I know that you have identified that issue. And I know that you've also built community through other similarly thinking secular atheist people. What do you think of that question of community, and how can we have it without church? It's one of the best things about the show, Stand Up, community that we've built, but that was like kind of by accident, and now I'm totally invested in it and want to grow it. But what about that question of community and how church delivers that, and where you might be without it?
Yeah, that's the biggest feather in your cap, I think, is the community that you've built. I'm super proud to be a part of it. But community is vital to the human experience. It's hardwired in us. I hesitate to go into epigenetics and the hardwired term, but I really think it's one of the things. It's the reason why humanity survived is community. Without it, we wouldn't have survived back in the way old days. So yeah, even just something as silly as getting rebuked online, that's like being rejected, and that's not a big deal, but you feel it. Like, you feel so bad if you get made fun of online, and it's just part of the human experience, I think. Yeah, community is vital. And in Texas, to be a non-believer, there's layers of swimming upstream. So I'm super proud to have formed community basically in the secular political lane, but also a part of community that has nothing to do with politics, and it's just free thinkers, agnostics, atheists, humanists, all the people that don't believe in supernatural beings. So yeah, I think the term religion can apply to just trying to make sense of the world. Who are we? Why are we? What are we? And with theistic religion, you look up. It's a vertical relationship. There's a supernatural being up there, you're down here. But with us, it's a horizontal relationship. So it's all a humanism, basically. You respect the inherent worth of every human. And it's like the golden rule without the supernatural stuff. So horizontal religion, horizontal way of making sense of this world. That's what I embrace. That's what I love.
Oh, I love the way you explained it. It really illustrates the differences very, very well. You're there in Texas, and you met a young James Tallarico, I think a little while back when he was a state congressman, and you're a big supporter of his. My question is there a better messenger than that guy on the work that you're very involved with? You don't have to be a non-believer. As you already said, the best messengers or the most effective people often are those who practice their Christianity in a more thoughtful way, to be kind. And so Tallarico seems to understand his religion and be authentic about it, but be able to very acutely explain why Christian nationalism is so insidious. What do you think about him and his ability to do that?
Yeah, that dude's a unicorn. As to be as religious as he is, he's a seminary school. And to say with the messaging he has, and I've been to enough of his events that he knows me by sight. Like this guy knows who I am and who I represent. And I've been to some events of his where there's no cameras, there's no press. It's like a fundraiser. And on his own, unprompted, he'll bring up separation of church and state, and this is why. And just like your friend John Fuel saying, he says there's a difference between Christians and Christ followers. And this guy's the latter. And I've been following him since he was in the Texas House. He officially still is, but he was saying these things 4 years ago, pushing back on 10 Commandments bills. Again, unprompted, as a proud Christian, he was saying these things. And yeah, I thought he was a unicorn back then, and it's only gotten stronger. We're proud support, and we endorse him proudly for Texas Senate. And by we, I mean Secular Texas, which is my org down here in Houston that endorses candidates based on church-state separation.
Based on church-state separation, Secular Texas has endorsed James Tallarico for Senate because of what he actually believes and wants to advocate for.
That's right. Let me clarify. Secular Houston, that's the org that endorses. Secular Texas PAC, which is a state PAC, will donate money based on who Secular Houston endorses.
What have you learned about campaigns and actually winning them and actually getting people elected? You mentioned before we started talking that one of the hardest things or important things is to communicate right now is we need you to vote for sure, but don't just come out and vote for state Senate James Tallarico, then look down the ballot, be like, I don't know these names. So what are some of the biggest challenges? Because you're in the trenches down there in Texas trying to get these folks that your support and your organization supports elected. What have you learned?
One of the biggest things that still gives me chills is my mind and heart always go to the people that aren't in front of the cameras, the volunteers. They're doing the door knocking, they're doing the phone banking, they're on Slack groups, volunteering their time, their money to get these people elected. Some like a James Tallarico and et al. That's kind of the like, again, my mind always goes to these people. And even in like the civil rights world, the people that you never hear of that were tortured, killed, they were part of this movement as well. So that's kind of the biggest thing I've learned. And meeting all these different people, again, my lane is in the secular world, but they're just different lanes doing other really important hard work that are just as important to try to get us to progress us as a society forward. So yeah, all the volunteers, all the people that are behind the cameras doing the work, absolutely love those people. And the coalitions, again, that's one question you asked me about Tallarico. In these adventures of endorsing candidates, most of them are believers. The coalitions between non-believers and believers, I absolutely love, because there are Christians that are just as repulsed by Christian nationalism as we are, and they actually do the work on the ground, pushing back on it.
Say more about that, the work that Christians are doing to push back on Christian nationalism.
Yeah, they see it as a twisting of their faith. And I see it. Again, I was a believer, and I get it. I see how it is a twisting. It's idolatry, what they're doing, because this is a political movement. Christian nationalism is a political movement, has nothing to do with religion or piety or a relationship with Jesus and God. They know it. Not everyone, not all Christians, but enough of them know it. And there are whole groups dedicated. There's a group called Christians Against Christian Nationalism, and it's in the title. They have a base here in Dallas, up in Dallas, And they do amazing work, and they're out there, they're visible, they're letting their people, they know, they accept the challenge. Like, it's our responsibility to tell our people that Christian nationalism is wrong, and they are up to the task, and they're doing it. I'm very proud of them.
Got to ask you about the race component for this campaign, specifically in Texas. There's been a lot made of James Tellerico and his primary against Jasmine Crockett, who's a superstar, a rising star in the Democratic Party, like famous. They're both now pretty famous, legit.
Oh, yeah.
With anybody that knows politics, and certainly anybody in Texas. And so there was a lot of question about many Tellerico supporters and where does Tellerico himself stand on certain issues around race. But most importantly, it seemed that there was a lot of black folks, specifically black women, tell me if I'm wrong about this, that were pretty vocal about the fact that there's a lot of Tellerico supporters who treated Jasmine Crockett inappropriately, disrespectfully, shittily, said things about her, and they were basically demanding that he speak up for her and support her against some of these social media influencers and others. That's my vantage point from outside Texas, watching closely as much as I can media. What is your vantage point, and how much was made of that issue, and if it was overblown, or how has Tellerico and Jasmine Crockett handled it?
That, what you're saying is right on, and that happened. I expected more of that, the volume of that to be way up, but it hasn't been as loud as I thought it would be, and that's a good thing. Now, yeah, it still exists. I hate that it does exist. There were primary opponents, and Tellerico won, and I don't know the guy. I mean, I don't know him personally, but there's nothing about what I've seen that makes me think he's a supremacist or would go into the gutter with these things, at least in public. In private, yeah, who knows what's happening back behind the scenes? But it rubs me the wrong way, that the picture that has been painted by him. Now, fast forward to now, and you're right. I think on your podcast, there was a clip of Tellerico basically standing up for Jasmine Crockett, saying, hey, if you're a supporter of mine or anybody, do not insult Jasmine Crockett. She's a friend of mine. She's amazing. And this is not what we do. And he did it in a way there was no wiggle room. There was no wishy-washy like this and that. No, he said, do not do it. I do not approve, and it's wrong.
And I can't see him handling it better in that situation. He was being called out by black women at that rally, and he said what seemed to appease them in the moment. But I don't have to tell you or any black folks, black women, that actions speak louder than words.
There you go.
Like a politician can say anything. I can say something that sounds like I'm an ally and then go do something that shows that I am not. And I will. Is my mic on? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I don't have to tell you. And so, has he followed up with action, or is that the kind of credibility that he now needs to achieve? And I guess I'm getting to this question about black turnout in the upcoming midterm election. Will black folks turn out for James Tellerico? Will they turn out in general in the elections that you're working on? How important is that? How much do you think about that and target the black community to try to inspire them to show up? Because no one can ever blame black folks or any historically marginalized community, but especially black folks in America. In my opinion, you can't blame black folks for being cynical about what politicians may or may not deliver to them.
You're exactly right. It's the actions that matter. And this refrain has been said many, many times, where politicians will visit the churches, they'll visit the neighborhoods, they'll visit these places on the trail, and then just drop it once they're elected. This has been happening ad nauseum since the beginning. But time will tell. Listen, I know the Tellerico campaign understands the importance of the black vote. And today is July 27th. There's a lot of time between now and when early voting starts and the elections in November. I know they have a plan. There's a lot of smart people. And it's not just a plan just for the sake of getting elected. I'm going to extend my optimism to say that he actually does care about all people. Again, I've heard him. I've heard what he says when the cameras are not there. I was there personally, and I was impressed. I really was.
He's he's really on message. People like him and John Ossoff, and obviously Bernie Sanders, always been repeating the same thing. Zoran Mamdani, they're really doing a good job at staying on message and being repetitive. And James Tellerico's opponent there apparently allowed a pedophile to go. And so Tellerico just keeps calling him a pedophile protector and trying to get him to answer the question about why he let this guy go. And I just can't think of a more impactful strategy than actually it's the worst thing you can call somebody is a pedophile, and the second worst thing is to protect them. And it looks like that's what he did. But either way, I don't know the details of that story, but his opponent in the election is this guy Ken Paxton. What do you make of that strategy and the story around it? And Jesus Christ, Republicans are going to vote for this guy?
Yeah, you can't ask for a more repulsive opponent. I mean, I could go on for a while about this dude. It's gross on every level. He's gross. So yeah, the fact that it's going to be a close race is a symptom of a disease here in this state. I shouldn't be saying it because that's dehumanizing a little bit. But this guy is gross. Yeah, Ken Paxton, and you can say that about pretty much all the statewide races here in Texas. The Republican nominees are terrible, horrible.
Let me ask you about that, because I too try not to dehumanize people, and I do hate some people. I do. I try not to use the H word, but I do hate some people, some individuals. But I still don't want to dehumanize them, because I feel like that if I do that, my explanation is that I become them in a way. But that's not the most thoughtful reaction. How come you don't? How come you try to stay above dehumanizing even the worst people?
I know it's a slippery slope, and I'm right there with you. I want to look myself in the mirror and say that I've taken the high road here. I don't mind insulting people when they deserve it, but for some reason this is important to me to stay above the shit with dehumanizing people. I'm a humanist, so I think that's kicking in and keeping me from losing my humanity, because when I take the humanity away from people, then yeah, you're right. I'm no different than the people I'm insulting.
I'm not going to say that religious people or believers are more likely to humanize, but it is part of the language. And one thing you hear a lot is from religious folks or those that are adjacent. I hear a lot of people calling others demons or demonic. And I'm like, Will, I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
I heard some progressive friends of mine say they're demonic. I'm like, no. Let's not call people demons. Let's not say they're demonic or possessed. Let's not traffic in that kind of language. We can be smart and funny and cutting without calling someone demonic. I particularly don't like that word or that of rhetoric. What do you think?
No, I'm with you, man. I love that you use terms like empty barrel. I say bottom of the barrel.
Meaning you don't have a set of rules or principles or moral clarity that you live by. I mean, that's what you and I think kind of connect over, is that even though we're not religious, we have a high bar that we set for ourselves, that we try to live by ourselves, a certain set of principles and ideas, a way to show up for, in your case, our daughters and other people. That's a lot. It's a lot to live up to, but it's important to us to not sell out on those principles. I mean, you're a physician, so it's a whole nother thing. To me, often it just irks the hell out of me that someone, as Tellerico says, I use this quote all the time, has a mouthful of scripture but a heart full of hate. Like, you're just filled with hatred and judgment. And I have a lot of that too, but I'm also still trying to be a better person than you are, because at least I'm living by some standards.
Yeah, it's humanism for me, but it's empathy that you're talking about. That's really what drives what I do. That's my guiding star. I don't know how to call it, but empathy is really what I try to be all about.
Say more about that when it comes to specifically the LGBT and especially the T community. We've been talking about it just obviously all the time, because trans people are being targeted all the time. There's a lot to say about what's going on in the world of the trans community and how we're all understanding it. But I do think we can, no matter what you think about trans people, much less trans people in sports, which affects zero people, is that these are folks that are marginalized, that are, quote, demonized, that are constantly being beaten up. Most recently the other night with our Commander in Thief talk, comparing Caitlin Collins to Dylan Mulvaney, who's a famous trans woman who that's supposed to be insulting. You're a physician. You understand what families are dealing with. I just, I only bring this question up. I wasn't planning on talking about trans people, but when it comes to empathy, there's no community, in my opinion, that could be easier in this moment to have empathy for. Obviously, we've got historically marginalized communities, black and brown folks, gay folks, Jewish folks, and so on, the disabled, people who are neuroatypical, but it's so crazy to see people demonize trans folks and act like they're a threat. That I have such a hard time with people coming up short on empathy for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a playbook that we've seen since the beginning of time. You pick the people that are the most marginalized, the easiest to pick on, and that's what you start with. And every society, fascist society, have had those punching bags, I think you've described them as. But yeah, fast forward to now, 2026, or even before now, I think trans is, I'm doing air quotes, easy target for the people trying to attain power.
Yeah, exactly. They're just demagogued in a way to, I mean, it's what happened on our school board election. Like nobody was paying any attention. There's not one kid. My own daughters didn't know anybody who identified as trans in the school. I asked my daughter, she was like, I think this one kid might, but she didn't give him any thought other than to have some empathy for him, but didn't know. But the parents made a thing of it and got worked up. And we're all, the rest of us are going, no, what about the important things that affect like most kids, like curriculum and class size and test and opportunity, equal opportunity and so on. And people were incensed by an issue that was a non-issue because they're so good at that. And Democrats just can't do that. Democratic voters won't buy it, and Democrats generally don't sell it. Or not even Democrats, anybody but this modern Republican, I guess. And it's a tale as old as time, I guess.
Yeah, what frustrates me is that these people that are oppressing trans people, they use religion as their to get the moral high road, but them red letters in the New Testament, it was to protect people like trans people and the marginalized people in society. So it's frustrating.
One of the greatest Christians, I think, American Christians of our lifetime was Jimmy Carter.
There you go. Yeah,
right?
He was in my talk yesterday. Yeah.
What do you say about Jimmy Carter in your talk?
And that is a perfect example of you can be super pious, super believer, and yet respect the separation of church and state. He was on record as saying that back then in the 70s.
So the importance of both being religious and respecting separation of church and state in that message, but also in actually building homes for poor people and eradicating diseases as he did with that worm, although I think RFK is bringing it back. But regardless, I mean, he's a good example. And another good example of a great Christian is a Muslim named Zohran Mamdani, who went to Rikers Island and watched the World Cup with inmates. He might as well have washed their feet, Will. What do you make of him and his behavior? And more importantly to me, him being a role model for other politicians. Like, is there a group of people in America that we care less about than the incarcerated? Think of something, but like those people made the wrong choices. They deserve to be in the worst prisons, and some of the worst prisons in the world, especially in New York. What do you think of Mamdani and some of his acting like a Christian or a good Muslim in his case, I guess?
Yeah, man, I love seeing examples of this, and there are not very many of them out there. To get to that level, you kind of have to shed your humanism. You have to shed your empathy to get up to the mayor of New York City or a senator. You see some shit, and that's a theory of mine, but he has retained it. Yeah, he keeps it, and you're exactly right. This is exactly what Jesus does.
Does. He's doing it right now. He's under my vest, washing my feet. The weird thing is I'm doing well. That's why he feels like he's wasting his time. It's like Santa coming to a rich person's house. Like, what am I doing? I already fucking have everything.
You have Santa rearrange the letters. That's who comes to my house.
Are they the same? Is it the exact same letters? Satan. Oh, wow. I may have known that in the past and forgotten. All right. So before I let you go, you are a physician. You're doing great work. First of all, let me just, before I forget, for people watching or listening that want to support your work, give some plugs.
Man, I just formed the Secular Texas PAC to put money behind the work that Secular Houston is doing. And my vision, our vision, because we have a board, is to expand that to Texas. So there'll be a Secular San Antonio, Secular El Paso, Secular Dallas Fort Worth, and they have their own endorsement lists. I hate the mixing of money in politics. I always have, but that's the way it is. And the way I describe it is that Christian nationalists have this, they enjoy a mountain of money. They can fund a Death Star. But I want enough money just to pay for an X-Wing fighter, because that's what it takes to blow up this Death Star. So yeah, with this money, and as my PAC, like I formed it, so it's not a gross corporate PAC or a state PAC. I'm sorry, a corporate PAC or a super PAC. It's a state PAC. And yeah, with the money, it allows us to put money behind this voice we have and push back even more on Christian nationalism. And in the political realm, we get to help get these people elected. They understand that we're part of that process, and they get to make the decisions now to push back on Christian nationalism from behind that wall.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, money is necessary. It's part of the game, especially since they have so much of it and so much dark money. So Secular, somebody just put the link in the chat, but Secular Houston, for people listening, I'll put the links in the show notes if you're listening, but go donate to that. Before we go, healthcare questions. You are a physician. I have taken advantage of that from time to time when I had puncture wounds, etc., a rash, and so on. I remember when I texted you because I felt like my penis had gotten too large. And
so that was a self-flagellating conversation as well, right? Is this the same thread?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, shit.
I want to ask about GLPs. Do you have thoughts on these weight loss magic bullets? They seem to be miracle workers.
They do. And they've been around for longer than people think. So people worry, oh, there was a long-term consequence of these. So far, it's looking really good. And yeah, they have their own potential side effects, but so does obesity. Has a ton more, no pun intended. And they've been great. Part of a medical research team, and we're researching some GLP stuff as well. So I'm kind of part of that world. But yeah, just on what I know now of GLP-1s, 2 thumbs up, especially again, if you have diabetes and other health issues.
Say just your opinion on SSRIs, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. Are they overprescribed, underprescribed? Is there a way to even answer that question? Is it way too broad of a question? Do you ever prescribe them?
Too broad of a question. I haven't done primary care since 2014, really. So I did a lot of prescribing, but it's been a long time. And the medicine's good in that we tend to reset and look at the data after a while. And I don't know the latest. I don't have my finger on that pulse.
Well, that's the important question. I appreciate the honesty, obviously, because, you could be a good physician, but I feel like, not unlike, medicine, you develop an opinion on something, and that opinion gets hardened over time about any number of things, even a place that you once visited. But I've had to remind myself the lesson to reevaluate my opinion on any number of important policies that I talk about here on the show, much less just lessons in life. And so if you're a physician, if you're a scientist, you have to continuously be educated and open-minded for any number of changes. How important is kind of continuing education as a physician and not solidifying your views on any number of treatments or diagnoses?
It's vital. It's super important. And it's hard. Yeah. Once you're kind of hard set on a certain treatment or idea, and then now you have to change your mind because of new data. It's hard to say, okay, I was wrong, I'm going to shift gears. And especially in medicine, there's a little bit of ego involved, but you have to keep the mind open to that.
How much do you think that this federal government guidance led by RFK has set us and even maybe the world back on any number of issues? And how hard do you think it'll be for us to recover when it comes to views on vaccines, much less almost anything else when it comes to medicine?
Yeah, time will tell. Again, I just said you have to keep an open mind. So this guy coming in, he's not a physician, but I guess he reads a lot. I don't know, man. It's super frustrating to see what RFK is doing, or the whole federal government in charge of health decisions for the country. But you have to keep an open mind. Maybe some part of me is saying, okay, maybe they know something we don't, and let's see where this goes. But where this goes is measles cases shooting up, diarrhea cases shooting out. It's.
Have you had any cyclosporin? Have you treated that diarrhea thing?
I have not. Yeah, I don't work in the urgent care as much. I don't do as many shifts anymore. I know diarrhea has been a thing, but is it cyclosporidia? That's really hard to test for. So that's one of the things we have to wait and see where things go. But just as far as symptoms go, I don't think there has been anything crazy here where I am.
Do you personally wash your lettuce, much less the rest of your produce? Do you wash produce before you eat them?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Forgive the adjective, but religiously.
I do.
You'll never pop a blueberry or lettuce in your mouth if you haven't washed it.
Yes, I'll wash it. Now, for this specific case, cyclosporidia doesn't help that much. But generally,
Have you stopped eating anything as a result of any of these things? Have you made those choices personally?
No. What I've heard on your awesome podcast is that I think Taco Bell was a leading candidate, and you have to take that with a grain of salt. This government is shitting the bed when it comes to public health stuff. But yeah, in my head, I'm still a human. So I'm like, okay, I never eat at Taco Bell, so my guard is still kind of down.
Well, it wasn't just Taco Bell. I think it was like it came from a farm that was supplying any number of different places, restaurants, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I got salmonella from Taco Bell when I was in high school, and so ever since I won't eat the meat at Taco Bell. But that's not even what happened. Like my salmonella was because a worker didn't wash his hands after he took a shit. But I was part of a class action lawsuit, me and like 700 people in central New York at $1,500, which is no small amount of money for a college freshman. I'd take salmonella and now for that much money. But I don't think it's guaranteed. I don't think you can ever really make that bet. If you take this disease, I'll give you, maybe Mr. Beast will come up with a stunt or something. Will you take this horrible parasite for this small amount of money? Dr. Wil Jeudy, everybody, we're so happy to have you in our community. We've got so many smart people out there, and I love having folks like you on to talk about the amazing activism and work that you're doing, because it's selfless and it's important and it's effective, and you just keep getting better down there in Texas. The community's growing. You're doing not God's work. You're doing Santa's work.
Santa, hail Santa.
Hail Santa.
And thank you, man, for what you're doing. You inspire me, actually. Your activism, what you do, and also the independent journalism. Like, I love supporting you because we need more of you, but we need you to be better, and more successful. So you do inspire me.
I appreciate that a lot. But let me ask you about like the standard that you look for in an independent journalist, because that's something I'm starting to talk about more, because I'm a little bit frustrated that people who do try to operate the way that I do don't have sometimes more credibility. And what I mean by that is we're not sensationalists that are constantly doing clickbait. And there's a ton of progressive creators, influencers, journalists, commentators that are doing just that. And also just trying to play by a certain set of rules and not spreading conspiracy theories and other things that, incentivize clicks and paid subscriptions, and trying to practice as if you are a responsible journalist, trying to live by those rules, issuing corrections, listening to your critics, making sure you have a few sources before you say something public. When you have a platform, you need to be responsible. And whether you fashion yourself or call yourself a journalist, when you have a platform, I don't care if you're an athlete or an actor or a comedian or a journalist, you got to be responsible to not misinform or disinform people. And there's a lot of incentives to do just that. What do you look for in the people who you trust to get accurate information from?
I don't know I don't know if I can put it in words, but over the years, I'm at an age where I know what confirmation bias is. I know that every human has it, including me. So I recognize that I have it. Yeah, and when I listen to people like you, Progress Texas is a really cool show down here, Waj Ali. When I listen to people like you, I can just sense that my confirmation bias bell might be dinging, but you're dinging it in a way where it's not sneaky. It's not for clicks. It's not for money. And it's not like you're dinging it. We're vibing. We're on the same side of history, but you're still skeptical. You're still open-minded. And it's a lot of words to say that I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's the reason why I support you, because you're just that.
I appreciate that. The other thing is that if you're an independent journalist or creator or influencer or whatever, however, make yourself accessible to the people who are subscribing and paying you, which we do every Thursday night, because they can then take you to task. They can ask you questions. They can give you criticism. They can tell you what they like, what they don't like. That's really important. The New York Times and other news outlets used to have ombudsmen. And I like to think that everybody is an ombudsman, and I'll listen. I'm no better than the next person. So many people that listen to the show have made huge contributions in what we learn about. And you, sir, are one of them. And I'm so happy and grateful for it. Dr. Wil Jeudy, go support Secular Houston. Someone in the chat just said, Pete dings my bell as well. And for a price, I will go anywhere to ding that bell, folks. I need the cashish. I'm not above dinging your bells. What are we talking about? Will, one more time on the plug for people listening.
Secular Houston, Secular Texas PAC, also American Atheists is great, and Center for Free Thought Equality. That's like Secular Houston, but on a national level. They're amazing.
I'll put all of those in the show links, and thank you very much. Dr. Wil Jeudy, everybody. Really appreciate you, pal.
Terrific. Find your community, people.
That's right. That's great advice. I should say that at the end of the show, but I feel like we have here. But everybody should find as many communities and be in as many communities as they can be.
Yeah.
You know,
wash your carrot.
And wash your carrot. Wait, are you saying
hashtag wash your carrot? Yeah.
Wait a second. Why do I just have one carrot? Why wasn't it carrots? Wil Jeudy, everybody. Very funny. Very good. Always appreciate you, bud. Thanks for watching live, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Dr. Wil Jeudy, go follow him on Instagram. Go support all of the work that he's doing. It's all in the show notes. And thank you for day number 2 of the video podcast. It is a lot more work than I thought it would be, but I'm getting it done, and I'm figuring it out. My schedule's changing, so appreciate your support, you bumblebees. Listen all the way to the end. Tell me what needs fixing. Let me know about the audio levels and anything else you think you have any ideas for. Send it my way. standupwithpete@gmail.com. John Carroll takes us in and out every day. There he is, right in the studio with me at all times. John Carroll poster up over my head. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
When the tyrants taunt you and the sirens tease, you better stand up. Stand up. Let the brave meet the challenge. Let the weak flee. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know us right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up. Stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. This is the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and hear